Plenty of new brooms in this seventh administration trying to sweep clean. One of them being Minister of Police Senzo Mchunu, joining us this morning to discuss the mammoth task that he faces, particularly in Cape Town and on the Cape Flats. Various communities have, not just for months, not just for years, but for decades been affected by gangs, guns and gangsterism. One conversation that he had at the weekends with the community of Nova Park, where gang violence, like other places, is surging. Joining us on the line, Minister Senzo Mchunu. Really appreciate your time. Your first takeaway, Minister, from speaking firsthand to residents in a suburb like Hanover Park?
My take is that the people of Hanover Park, and I'm sure they represent the feeling throughout Cape Flats, are very, very concerned, if not right away tired, about what they call is violence on a daily basis, where people get killed, where there are shots ringing every day, where there is no peace and stability for them as individuals, for them as families, and for them as a community. Now they feel they are not taken seriously, and they're not viewed as important by our government. And when I say by our government, I mean from local to province to national. They feel they're on their own, and it's very traumatizing the way they were speaking. And they so wish that we intervene and do something in the situation.
Minister, in 2018, at Hanover Park, the President launched a specialized police unit, the anti-gang unit. And I speak to enough people. I'm regularly in communities like Hanover Park. Many of my family still live in communities that are affected by gang and gangsterism and gun violence. To them, they say a unit like the anti-gang unit has shown little to no difference in the last 6 years since its inception?
Well, the anti-gang unit is still there, and they are working, and we were given the report of their activities and some of their achievements. But at the heart of the gangs attacks, so long as you have the phenomenon of drugs, and some were saying as a form of sub-economy for those areas, there isn't going to be any sunrise in terms of peace and in terms of safety, in particular, even for children and for women. So at the center is drugs, and then by gangs, different gangs, and so the issue of gangs is, it has drugs as a core around which it is evolving. So anti-gang needs to go hand in hand with anti-drugs, and then the drugs don't just grow up in Hanover, the Hanover Park and other areas. These drugs come from all over, which is then another issue. But as I say, they're saying it's now a kind of a subculture, if not culture itself, that you grow up and you must belong to a gang, or one gang or the other. You must be involved in gang fights. You must have something to do with drugs. And it's quite a problematic situation, because they then subject communities and everybody into that kind of a culture, and they expand it to other things like making people pay for some of the things like protection fee, as they call it, and they become some kind of a sub-government within the community, subjecting people to this and that, or they get threatened or even get killed. It's quite a situation which is untenable.
You're right, Minister,
that
that gangs act like some form of sub-government, because in the absence of the state and state services and state protection, it's gangs who then step in. It's gangs who often give families their singular meal. It's gangs who offer lines of credit when financial institutions won't. It's gangs that if you have a domestic dispute, it's often easier to go to the big boss in the street to say, my husband has been beating me, instead of going to the police station. Would you agree that the phenomena of gangs in Cape Town, South Africa, is largely because the state has failed and has left this void?
Yeah, they spoke about this one after the other as we listened to them, articulating how it has evolved and how it's obtaining right now. And it's exactly that. They complained about services, that the absence of government-driven services make them vulnerable, and these people take advantage of such services. So, in terms of the approach, there is no way police alone can deal with the matter and succeed. It has to be the whole government kind of approach. You may have the anti-gang, as we have, do what they are doing the best that they can, but you need a whole government approach and over a period, because this, as I say, has taken place over decades, and it has become a kind of a way of life there. And that way of life includes and involves murders, high rate of murders. And you can't have a culture like that. You can't have a way of life like that. And something has to give way. It's either peace, safety for everybody, or we just let the thing go. But some of them believe that if this thing is not abated, there is danger that it may grow and actually become more than what it is, and that's a problem.
Minister, I appreciate that policing and anti-gang policing is far more than just increasing the number of police officers. It's about reshaping entire societies and economies. But surely there are short-term solutions, broad sweeps looking for illegal firearms in communities, arresting people or known people for gang affiliation or with a suspicion of being involved in shootings. I'm not saying, and I don't endorse the El Salvador approach, that anyone, every male who happens to live in an area that may be associated with gangs and gangsterism gets thrown into jail. But surely we have legislation like the Prevention of Organized Crime Act, which does state that if there is evidence on your body in the form of tattoos, you are known associates of certain gang figures, that you can be arrested and you can be charged in violation of the POCA Act. Is there a chance of using existing legislation to find at least some short-term gains?
Well, look, the anti-gang unit, as I say, have been there for some time, and they're working. And the number of people, some of whom are regarded as kingpins of one gang or the other, they've been arrested, and some are in custody as we speak. But they say no sooner have you removed one, and then the rear line, the next line from the rear will come in and those would have been the lines that would have been suppressed by the so-called boss or kingpin, and then they just emerge from nowhere in numbers, and then fighting for turf and competing. So it's not something about kingpins or non-kingpins. It's the whole phenomenon that needs to be dealt with. And yes, this is being worked on right away as I speak. But it's a stopgap measure. It's a kind of situation where you say you can't literally let people, get subjected to such without doing anything, even in government's name, so that we are there and are seen to be maintaining peace and order and safety as per our mandate. Yes, that is happening.
Minister, just very quickly, and then whenever we have discussions around gang violence or there's an upsurge in gang activity, there are often calls for the deployment of the SANDF. I don't necessarily think that is the answer. The SANDF is not trained to do community policing, but it's often something that is raised in order to keep a measure of calm. Your thoughts of more engagement with the SANDF, in particularly crime and gang hotspots?
There is nothing that we're not going to use at our disposal to deal with the matter. But of course, we will measure the steps that we get to take with the impact that is desired. And if in the course of time we need to use SANDF, we will. But we had a discussion as ministry. We had a discussion with General Masimula and his team, and the outcome is that for now, let's deal with it the way we are. But in the meantime, there are going to be meetings with the city of Cape Town, with the province, with other sister departments, so that we bring in a line of government spheres and government departments, so that each one of us can deal with the issues as per our mandates.
Minister Senzo Mchunu, unfortunately I have to leave it there, but really appreciate your time, your thoughts on that. If you live in a community affected by high rates of crime, gangs, gun violence, let me know if it instills confidence in you.